Hello, everybody. What an introduction. I feel very humbled. It's brilliant to be here at Indonesia Blockchain Week, my first time in Jakarta. Also, my first time delivering this presentation, so please bear with me. Let me just skip back a couple of slides. I wanted to talk about the theme of doing your own research and what on-chain analysis and on-chain literacy really means as we move into 2026. I think at OKX Wallet, it's our opinion that over the past year or so, the goalposts have really shifted. We're seeing new threats, new vulnerabilities, as well as lots of new ways to interact with the blockchain. So if you rewind 10 years ago, when we've all first started entering crypto, the common answer that projects would give to you when you wanted to understand more about their project or what they were building was DYOR, do your own research. But I think the modern day realities of what that actually means as an individual have really changed. So I wanted to just reflect a little bit on 2025 and what some of those themes of change are, and then to talk about moving forward some practical use cases and tips I think that we can all adopt as individuals based on the technology that's available to us to address some of that. So it's my opinion that on-chain literacy will really become a core life skill in the future. Why is that important? These numbers show, just from an OKX Wallet perspective, some of the threats that we've blocked to date. 252,000 malicious domains, 17 million lookalike addresses, 2 million high-risk tokens, and 9 million high-risk transactions. The volume of threats to individuals, to builders, to protocols is increasing every day. As the technology becomes more advanced, so too do bad actors. This is reflected in global reporting also. So the FBI has started publishing an annual internet crime complaints report. They haven't done their 2025 version yet, so this shows the 2024 numbers, but I think it just gives us a sense of the scale of the issue. If you look at the chart on the left-hand side, you'll see that Americans reported nearly 900,000 complaints of internet crime in 2024. That accounted for 16.6 billion in losses, according to the results of those complaints. If we look at cryptocurrency as a part of that, 9 billion of the 16.6 was related to cryptocurrency. This is just in the US. And I've got a pretty good feeling that if we fast forward to the 2025 report, we're going to see that the overall number has increased and that the cryptocurrency number has also increased. So what changed? Okay, it's not all doom and gloom, but what changed in 2025 that I think really is going to contribute to the increase of that threat? Well, the first thing is anybody can launch a token. Okay, that's a good thing because it increases access. It means that builders don't necessarily need to have a huge amount of start capital to get a project going. But it's also a bad thing because things like QuantKit can happen. You can have a 13-year-old child launch a token and have to deal with the consequences of what happened there. So whilst it was quite funny at the time and funny as we look back, it's a really serious problem. And it's not just about QuantKit. If we look at the numbers, in January 2024, on a weekly basis, 18,000 new tokens appeared on DEXs around the world. Fast forward a year to Jan 2025, this is when we were in the middle of the Trump token hype, 500,000 every single week. And today we're around about 180 to 200,000 tokens weekly. Okay, so what does this tell us? If I go back to the beginning end where I said the goalposts have changed, do your own research is not what it used to be, how the heck can we be expected as individuals to do our own research, choose the right asset, feel confident that whatever we're investing in makes sense if there are 200,000 tokens launching every single week? It's a huge, huge challenge. What else changed in 2025? Well, the theme of on-chain identity, I think, became more important than ever before. I'm not pointing fingers at James Wynn here, but as I reflect back on the year, I kind of think he's the name that stands out in my mind. He appeared on the Twitter timeline out of nowhere. The rise of Hyperliquid, who were doing incredible things, meant that the stakes really changed because everyday people like you and I who wanted to participate in on-chain trading could suddenly do so with leverage, with margin, and that increased the stakes. So you combine this kind of online influence appearing out of nowhere, we don't know who this person is, with the stakes raising and becoming a lot higher. Again, I think this was a significant shift in what changed this year. Thankfully, and we'll talk a little bit about this later, we're now starting to learn a lot more about who is behind the wallet address, who is behind the Twitter profile, and actually merging those things so that as end users on-chain, we can get a better appreciation of exactly what it is or who it is that we're dealing with. So my hope as we move from 2025 into 2026 is that actually the maturity of the Web3 user mindset is going to increase a lot because we have new technology available to us. Many of us have been through bad experiences that we don't want to experience again. So I think about key themes. I hope we'll move from hype to evidence, from speculation to analysis, and from chance to control. And these kind of three themes I'll talk about for around about the next 10 minutes or so. At a protocol or a builder level, I think we're seeing some really, really interesting developments. If you think about the way that you operate in the Web 2 world, we're now all hyper aware about who we share our data with and how we do that. Now, in the Web 2 world, typically you have to opt in to share your data, although that's not always the case. And there are now new tools available to us that make it easier to kind of understand who we're sharing our data with, exactly what data they're getting access to. That's all moving in a really great direction. If we look at countries or regions like the EU in particular, we're seeing really impressive laws coming into place that mean that companies and individuals are really held responsible for the way in which they deal with this kind of thing. Now, on-chain, things are a little bit different, right? Because we all bought into the premise of public distributed ledger technology, where there's radical transparency, where everybody can see every single record on the blockchain, and where it's immutable and can never be changed. So there's a bit of a problem there, and I think we're starting to see some really interesting innovation to address that issue. There's a protocol called Midnight. This is built on Cardano. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. And I think this is a good example of a protocol that's addressing these kind of issues. And some of the things that they're beginning to think about is how can we, as Web3 users, not just automatically have all of our on-chain history, transactions, whenever we connect a wallet to any kind of DApp that's recorded, how can we not just have it so that that's always available for everybody to see, but actually begin to think about privacy-preserving techniques. And this becomes really important, I think, as we move away from blockchain being used purely for financial use cases, which today it primarily is, but actually for the adoption of blockchain into new areas. So I mean, healthcare is a great example. You know, I think there's a really good case to be made for putting healthcare records on the blockchain. However, do all of us here really want our healthcare records to be public for everybody to see? Probably not. So protocols like Midnight are looking at ways that you can basically take that responsibility away from the individual end user and using ZK technology make it easier for builders to address some of these issues. At an individual level, this is really simple, and I know I'm stating the obvious, but I think control really starts with self-custody. We've seen it time and time again that end users, individuals are willing to take the risk of giving custody of their assets to businesses that they don't really know enough about or where there's a high level of risk, and things go wrong. So we really believe at OKX Wallet that control starts with self-custody, and what's really important to understand here is that not all technology is made equal. So if you want to understand a little bit more about the different types of signals you can be looking for in a wallet and in a technology, things like cybersecurity, operational security, community, the age of the company, social relevance and engagement. There are platforms like Certic Skynet where you can go in and look at all of this stuff. At a token level, no longer do we just need to rely on a tweet that we see on X. There are now multiple platforms that really enable you to see all of the details of the way that a smart contract for a token has been configured, so you can make your own mind up about whether you're willing to take the risk on that asset. So if you look down, I'm probably standing in the way here. If you look down the right-hand side here, sorry, it's a little bit blurry. I just chose a token at random. There's a couple of risks detected there. One to do with authorization and one to do with the smart contract enabling the developer to issue new tokens. If I go further down, and this kind of scrolls on endlessly, I can see whether it's a honeypot token, whether the smart contract is modifiable, whether it's soul bound, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all signals, I think, that enable us to do to DYOR in a much more effective way. Nothing new, I think, but bubble maps are really helpful in being able to identify kind of the provenance of a token, the team behind, risks associated with clustering. This technology is really ready and available and in many wallets now, but I think a great signal for us to help do better research. We're all familiar with concepts like KYC, know your customer, KYB, know your business. There is a new area that I think is really, really interesting. I just made this term up, it's not a thing, but know your KOL. Many KOLs, and I'm sure there's many in the audience here today, hugely, hugely important and influential to building a credible space within crypto. Many KOLs have experience and influence from an educational perspective that they share with their communities, and also often, information that is really helpful. But rather than just relying on the KOL's word, I think what's really empowering for them now is that KOLs are actually able to prove their success. Through on-chain data combined with social data, a user can now get a really good picture of a KOL's win rate, of their P&L, of when they invested in assets, and you don't have to go searching for this one by one. You can see a dashboard like this on OKX Wallet that will show you it. So this dashboard shows a kind of a KOL leaderboard based on 7-day averages, and will show you P&L, win rates, which tokens that they've been buying, etc. If you go down a level and click into an individual KOL, and I picked one at random here, you can see a P&L dashboard, which shows the realized P&L of this KOL at 1.29 million, their balances, their win rates, their transactions, and then down here you can see actually an analysis, historical analysis of all the transactions they made. So dashboards like this, I think, give us an extra level of data and of insight that help us make more informed decisions. I think a really interesting innovation has been bringing social insight together with on-chain analysis, and bringing that together in a view that makes it easy for us as cryptocurrency interested people to make better decisions. Here you can have a look at a token and see along the chart a timeline that shows which KOLs mentioned that asset or promoted that asset on their X channel, what the price was at that time, what the influence was on the price, and actually we compile it, you can't really see, but up on the top right here, into something called a vibe score, which gives you an overall, I guess, sentiment of the level of engagement with this token from a social perspective online. So they were just 4 or 5 examples, I think, of the ways that the goalposts have really shifted, where it's now much easier for individuals to do on-chain analysis combined with social analysis to make better decisions. I really like this. I think it's a good reflection of this past year, right? We all bought into, I built a privacy protocol, code is law, disrupt the middlemen. If I reflect back on the second half of this year, I think a lot of what people were really looking for was please buy my bags, BlackRock. Strategic crypto reserve. Stablecoins are the only use case. 3 of the big trends this year. My hope is that we kind of revert back to the original here. And I think that's what's going to happen. Who knows whether we're about to enter a bear market? But in bear markets, what typically happens, as we all know, is there's a focus on utility, on real building, on thinking about what comes next. I think we've only just seen the tip of the iceberg of institutional involvement in cryptocurrency, so it's going to be top of mind for many builders. But I really hope we're going to come back to the initial philosophy around blockchain and cryptocurrency. Okay, this just about brings me to the end. I guess just to reiterate 3 key points of what we learned in 2025 and where we hope things are going to go in 2026. I think on-chain literacy really needs to become a core life skill for anybody who's operating within cryptocurrency. So understanding the technology that's available to us, how to use it, and how to make more informed decisions as we go along. Secondly, the premise of radical transparency and transactions that everybody can see with no privacy at all, I think is being challenged. And that's really interesting. So I'm going to be really interested to see how privacy-preserving protocols evolve, how some of those use cases evolve, and how we as end users or builders will be able to interact with them. And then the last bit is there's always going to need to be a huge element of reasonable human judgment. I think we can help each other out here, right? But what I'll be looking for is where there's new developments in terms of programmable tools that we can combine with human judgment to make better decisions. In case you're not familiar with OKX Wallet, there's a little bit here on screen to help you understand more. It supports 140 different blockchains. So if a token exists on the blockchain, it's a pretty good chance you'll find it on OKX Wallet. It's actually a decentralized exchange aggregator. So rather than, so the way it works, we actually pull prices from 400 different decentralized exchanges. So you're not guaranteed the best price on an asset, but there's a pretty good chance that it will be close enough. And then you can use it to connect to any experience on any blockchain or any of 140, as well as bridging seamlessly between around about 30 different routes as well. So if you haven't tried it out, please do. We'd love to get your feedback. There's a big booth over there where you can get t-shirts and caps and stuff for doing so. And yeah, otherwise, I'd just like to say a very big thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to spending the rest of the day here and getting to know some of you, so thank you.
Right. All right, thank you once again, Samuel Christian from OKX. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.